my sight, now my world is bright.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to The Straight Path. I'm your host, Fuad Muhammad. Well, today's show we call it East, West, and In Between. Why we call it this way? Well, we have someone to help us to understand why we've chosen this name, and he is no other than the famous Sheikh from America, Sheikh Yusuf Estes. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
It's a pleasure having you on The Straight Path once again.
It's so nice to have the chance to be again here in Cairo and visit with you guys on Huda TV.
Okay, we also have on the program Brother Abdul Aziz Qasim from Switzerland.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi
wa alaikum assalam. Jazakallah khair for taking your time out to be on The Straight Path today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Sheikh, the name of the show was an idea from you. Why did we choose this name?
Well, what we thought was that oftentimes we hear people talking about the West versus Islam, the East versus the West, and we said, why don't we do the East, the West, and what's in between? Because in reality, the whole entire world belongs to Almighty God.
Yes, of course.
And then along with that, why don't we look at the whole picture instead of trying to make something opposing something all the time? Let's look at ways to find solutions to problems. There were many aspects that we discussed with this, but it seemed that that was the best way to represent the holistic picture of East, West, and what's in between. And you, of course, are going to be representing the East, and I'm representing the Old West, cowboy style, Texas. And we thought Abdelaziz is the perfect one to be in between. Because we talk about the Swiss, he's from Switzerland, and we talk about the Swiss so often being neutral. The Swiss are, allowing for this and taking it easy for that and claiming neutrality in so many issues. We said, okay, let's bring him on and have this East, West, and what's in between.
Okay, well, we'll start a bit different today. We'll start with what is in between, Sheikh. Tell us about Islam in Switzerland. I mean, it's been on the headlines, but let's just have a brief background of what Islam is in Switzerland and who are the Muslims of Switzerland.
Yes. Barakallahu feek. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Well, Switzerland is a country, as you know, very much between the mountains. So are the Muslims over there. We are quite disorganized at the moment. We are about 400 to 500,000 Muslims among 7 million Swiss citizens. And let's say probably we are the worst disorganized people there in Central Europe, unfortunately, until now. And we are really hoping, inshallah, bi'awnillah, and with the help of Allah, to change this picture in the future and to become much more organized after the model of the people of England, the Muslims of England or France. Inshallah.
Okay, just to clarify, the composition of the Muslims are mostly Swiss citizens?
No, yeah, of course, most Muslims in Switzerland are immigrants coming from the Balkan area, coming from Northern Africa, from Arab countries, and some even from the Far East, but most of them probably from the Balkan area. So very few people in Switzerland are holding the citizenship, actually. We say, or we think there are about 50,000 actually holding the Swiss passport, and the rest 400 to 450,000 then are probably immigrants holding just a visit permit, a work permit.
Okay, Sheikh, maybe this question I'm going to ask is very quite common, but I mean, since it's not been asked a very long time about the Muslims in America and the West as a whole, what is Islam like now in the West?
When we say the West, if you're talking about the United States, this is one subject. But if you want to talk about in England or Canada or Australia, this is another subject.
Yep.
Each place I've seen personally a vast difference in the way the Muslims there perceive themselves and the way that the non-Muslims are perceiving Islam and the Muslims. In the United States, there is now a very concentrated effort by non-Muslims to basically attack everything that Islam is standing for. Now, this is not true of all the people, but there is a big concerted effort right now amongst certain people to really put Islam down and everything Islam teaches, and to jump on every opportunity to show something, exaggerate something, twist something, to say that, oh, look, this bad thing called Islam. That's the situation today. And we've seen in the past other times when these things have surfaced, but they were quickly put down by a rational approach from other non-Muslims who said, now hold on guys, let us look at it. The President of the United States, who at that time was Clinton, he said very clearly that we're not at war with Islam. We're having no problem with Islam. George Bush, he also, even though we could say a lot of things about George Bush, it's still in his speech he was very clear about the subject that Islam is a peaceful religion. We're not having a problem there. Madeleine Albright, and we know what happened in Iraq while she was in her office. And she even said, when they asked her about 400,000 babies, children dying, what do you say about that? And she said it was worth it. But still, when it came to the subject of Islam, she said, no, 1 in 4 people on the earth are Muslims. We're not having a problem with Muslims. These are different issues. That's what they used to say. But now, we're not hearing this same voice anymore. We're not hearing it. We would like to hear Mr. Obama come up and say something like this. He did come here to Egypt.
Yes.
And he spoke very clear on the subject. And he even quoted some ayahs in English.
He started his speech by saying, Assalamu alaikum, by the way.
Yes, he did. And many people were influenced by that. Even I heard some of the Muslims screaming takbir and Allahu Akbar and stuff like this. I'm surprised they didn't ask him for fatwa. But this is another story. But what we would like to, I think, address in our program tonight is the situation east-west and what's in between, to find solutions, not just to open a discussion, but let's look and examine what are some of the things we as Muslims could be doing to help bring together a better
I just want to take you back in the very beginning of your statement. You're saying there is a concentrated effort against Muslim.
Absolutely.
Who is the main reason for this? Are the Muslims responsible for this?
No, I think indirectly the Muslims are playing a part in this, largely because of their own ignorance of what is true Islam. Also, another area, the Muslims are being reactionaries. They're seeing something and they're jumping up and down. They want to grab signs and posters, run to the streets and protest about things they don't even know what they're talking about.
Yes.
You know? For instance, if the government said, we are going to demand that there must be hijab, then they would be out there going, no, we don't want that. But if you told them, okay, the government says you can't have hijab, okay, then we're, because they're just reacting without really thinking, what is the subject? What does Islam really say on these issues?
Yes, yes. So we can bring Abul Qasim into this. When we just mentioned that, I mean, everyone, when I introduced you, I said that you were from Switzerland, everyone would think that we're going to talk about the minaret ban. But what Sheikh Yusuf is saying is that the Muslims are partly responsible towards these concentrated efforts against Islam. The minaret ban in Switzerland, how do you see this the idea coming about, and how were the Muslims responsible, and what were the reactions of the Muslims?
Yes. First of all, I agree with the Sheikh, of course, that the Muslims, they hold a big responsibility and are responsible in a way for what is happening towards Islam, especially in Europe. I do not really have a picture of what is going on in the US, although I have seen and heard that in America the situation is much more open to Muslims compared to Europe. If it has to do with the general understanding of religions in America, which are based on its constitution and based on its foundation, which was, of course, the Puritan foundation fathers who founded America, isn't it? So it is based on a religious basement, America, whereas Europe, now, modern Europe, is not based on a religious basement, but rather on a secular basement, just to mention the French Revolution and what came afterwards. So maybe this might have some impact and give us some idea about the differences of perception of religion in general in America and perception of religion in Europe. Just to say, to come back to your question, actually, I think that Muslims in Switzerland, and especially Switzerland, are quite disorganized. And this was the main reason they were not able to show its fellow citizen what Islam really is. So the picture of Islam has been taken from the mass media, especially